Hello there, Sully here, the retired tanker yanker. Welcome to Transitions. To see more of my content and future episodes of this series So You Want to Be a Truck Driver, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. You know, I work hard at these videos and I do want my channel to grow. And that's up to you. That is entirely up to you. Hit that subscribe button, you help me. I appreciate your subscription, and if you're already a subscriber, I thank you for your continued support. Well, I hope you like my haircut. I know I've been getting a little shaggy and I've been ignoring that. I took care of that this week though. Welcome to episode 15. The title of this episode is, So You Had an Accident? Face it, if you're a trucker, you will be involved in an accident. That's the reality of the business. Accidents happen, and everyone who drives a truck will be in an accident. And that goes for the guys in your company who are million-mile accident-free drivers. That just means that they have not been in a chargeable accident. Because accidents fall into two categories, chargeable and non-chargeable. Chargeable means that you failed to do everything you could have reasonably done to avoid the accident. Now, hitting an animal is usually a non-chargeable accident because, face it, you can't stop an animal from riding out in front of you. However, if you're in violation of the HOS regulations, you can and likely will be charged with the preventable accident. For that matter, any accident you are in, if you're in violation, will be charged to you. So what if you're parked? You're taking your legally required break, right? Well, yes, if you're legally parked. But if you are illegally parked, and that includes on private property or in a truck stop, if you are illegally parked, you can be charged. Because parking illegally is something you can reasonably expected not to do. You know, it's common sense. Now, if you're on private property and have the express permission of the property owner or his or her agent, then you're considered legally parked. But if you're driving in violation and are involved in an accident, even if it's with a drunk driver, that can be considered chargeable. Now, I remember an incident in a company where I worked where a driver who was in violation was on his way home. Now, a four-wheeler being operated by somebody with Alzheimer's crossed the median and hit the truck head-on. The driver was out of hours, and of course this was back in the day before ELDs. The driver just delivered his load, and he had been out on the road for about 5 weeks, and he was supposed to go home after he delivered the load. I guess he just didn't want to wait to take his break, which at the time, by the way, was only 8 hours, not 10 hours. It was in the wee hours of a Saturday morning, so he figured that as long as he didn't get caught by the DOT, he could falsify his log and get away with it. Well, of course, the driver of that car, the Alzheimer's patient that crossed the median, hit the truck head-on, he was killed. He was medically disqualified from having a license and operating a vehicle, and he wasn't supposed to be driving, but he had Alzheimer's. He didn't, his mind didn't allow him to make rational decisions, and he just got out and started driving his car. Well, his family sued the company successfully in a wrongful death lawsuit for $1 million. And the driver spent a couple months in prison too, because it was considered homicide by vehicle. And of course he lost his CDL. Technically he would not have been at fault, but because he was driving a big truck, and because he was driving out of hours in violation of the HOS regulations, he was charged with a fatal accident. And the bottom line is, that particular company was forced to consider electronic logs, and in fact they went on to develop and implement an electronic logging system which we all use called QHOS. So I guess you don't have to know what company I'm talking about. Now, accidents, whether chargeable to you or not, are divided into two types, reportable and non-reportable. And the discipline you receive will be determined by these criteria. Now, to be a chargeable accident, the accident has to do one of these things. There has to be total property damage in excess of $5,000. If any vehicle is required to be towed from the scene, or there is bodily injury requiring transportation to a hospital, or death. If any of these criteria occur, the accident is considered reportable. Your company safety department will then make a determination if it is a chargeable accident to you, and they will rely on your account of the circumstances, the account given by other involved parties, accounts given by witnesses, and the police report. So what do you do if you're involved in an accident? Well, the first thing you need to do is secure the scene. Don't move your vehicle, and if other involved parties do move their vehicles, other than to move them to a safe location, note that. The next thing you need to do is tend to any injured parties. If someone is injured, administer first aid, and don't buy into the old wives' tale that if you administer first aid, you can be sued, because there is something called the Good Samaritan Law which protects you. Then call the police. It doesn't matter how minor the accident is or how minor it seems, you need a police report. And never volunteer information to anybody who isn't wearing a badge. It should go without saying that you never, ever admit fault. Even to the police, just the facts. Do not volunteer information and do not admit fault. If you do that, you'll be charged, plain and simple. So even if the accident obviously is your fault, talk only to the police. Don't give details to the other parties. Make sure, as part of securing the scene, you set out your triangles. You want to warn other passing vehicles that there is an accident and you don't want another one to happen. Okay, contact your safety department, and it's a good idea to call your dispatcher first. Let them connect you to safety. That way your dispatcher knows that you're going to be delayed, and safety will advise you what to do. Another thing that you shouldn't do is to become confrontational with the other party, because chances are that other driver will blame you. Stay calm. Exchange insurance information with the other party, and again, do not admit guilt, do not admit fault. Now, if the other driver offers you something called an exoneration card, don't fill it out and don't sign it. Now, your company might require you to offer the other party an exoneration card, so do that, but understand that that party has the right to refuse that. However, if they do fill it out, if they do sign it, it is a legal document. Keep it in a safe place. It's a legal document where the other party freely accepts and admits responsibility. Now, if there are witnesses, give them what's called a witness card. It's something that your company will issue you. It'll have the company safety department on it and will say, look, we realize maybe you can't stick around to talk to the police. Could you at least give us a call and tell us what you saw? Now, if they can stick around, make sure they talk to the police. But whether they leave and you give them a witness card, or if they stick around, get their names and phone number, because your company may want to contact them. Never, ever, ever talk to anybody who identifies themselves as an agent of an insurance company. Tell them that they do not have the right to ask you questions, and you are exercising your right to refuse to answer your questions. Another thing you should do is get your phone out and take some pictures. Now, if someone tries to stop you, tell them that it's your right to take pictures of the scene. Your company requires it. Now, when you do talk to the police, make sure you get the name and the badge number of the police officer who takes the report, and get an incident report number from that officer. Now, if the officer issues a citation, note that, especially if the other party is cited. Now, if you're cited, we do have a thing in this country where you are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and the burden of proof is on the prosecution. So my advice to you is that if you receive a citation for an accident, fight it. You might use a prepaid legal service for that. They will fight your ticket for you. Now, your company will also issue you something called an accident packet. Fill out that packet. Give as much detail as you can, but keep it brief. Failure to comply with your company's policies can be devastating, and it can bite you in the ass. Now, suppose someone accuses you of hitting them after the fact. This has happened to me, and I can tell you that failure to do it right will cost you. Just because somebody has accused you of something, that doesn't mean you did it. The burden of proof is on them. Now, you might park next to somebody who's been hit, and they'll say, well, you're next to me, therefore you did it. They have to prove it. Now, I'm going to recall an incident where I was backing into a tight dock, and I noticed that the truck in the dock next to me had some damage on the left front end. I didn't think a lot of it. But then the guy came back and said that I had hit him and I had taken out his entire left side of his truck. He said, the entire left side of my truck is gone. Well, in fact, his left fender mirror was knocked off, and like I said, I noticed this as I was backing in, and he had some scratches on the left side of his cab around the sleeper. The truck that had been in the dock before him was this big ass long Pete, and this was in Brooklyn, a tight dock. And that guy who claimed I hit him, he wasn't in the door straight. He was cockeyed, and actually the front end of his truck was over the line on the right side of my truck where I had to back in. The police came. They investigated. They looked at his truck. They looked at my truck and said, this guy couldn't have hit you. Said, there's scratches here. There would be paint on his truck. We can't even find anything sticking out of his truck that would match these scratches. And there's no paint on his truck. So whoever hit you took paint off. And I said, do you think it could have been that big, long old Pete that was never meant to be in Brooklyn? And the cop said, that would be my bet. But in fairness to that truck, I mean, this guy made a statement to his company that I became physical with him and I shoved him. And they reported that to my safety department, and the safety director just laughed at him and said, you must be talking about a different Jerry Sullivan. Because the Jerry Sullivan I know is a pretty laid-back guy. He knows the type of person I am. And the police assured me that there was no evidence that I had hit him. In fact, the evidence showed that I couldn't have hit him. And I even helped the guy take the loose mirror off his truck because he had no tools. Well, later on, he claimed that I had broken the wing window on the right passenger door, the passenger side door. That was broken. What had happened was he locked his keys in, and that's how he got into the truck. And he claimed that I did that during the accident. How I could hit him on the left side and the right side at the same time beats me, but apparently this guy had a track record of, shall I say, embellishing the things. This was over 10 years ago, so I'm going to assume that this guy is no longer driving a truck for a living. Your reputation for honesty will go a long way. So if you're constantly making excuses for when you screw up, people will remember that. But if, say, there's an incident and you put your big boy pants on and say, yeah, I screwed up, I'm ready to take whatever consequences there were. Number one, those consequences will be less severe. And number two, people will remember that you were honest. So that when somebody accuses you of something and you didn't do it, they will be more likely to buy your story, especially if that story is coming from the mouth of somebody who has a reputation of making stuff up. And trust me, that happens a lot in this business. Well, it's my sincerest hope that you all had a great Thanksgiving. And when you're out on the road, you will be safe. Just keep that dirty side close to the road and the shiny side close to the sun. And just keep it between the lines. Keep your head about you. Pay attention. Drive safely. Aim high in steering. Get the big picture. Make sure they see you. Leave yourself an out. Do all those things that you need to do to be a safe driver. For transitions, this is Sully, the retired tanker yanker. Safe and happy travels.
Thank you.